Welcome to this virtual hearing on the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations on the 1961 Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness. Comsec, do I have any other senator here with me now?
Hey, Senator Amy Marcos has logged in earlier, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I will. So we make that of record, and we will once again acknowledge her online presence later. Is she here now? Okay, sige. Okay, the chair will make his opening statement. Based on the UN High Commissioner for Refugees mid-year trends for 2021, there are 4.3 million stateless persons around the world. This, however, may be an understatement as it only accounts for 94 countries with available data. The Institute on Statelessness and Inclusion, ISI, estimates that there are about 15 million stateless people around the world. Approximately one-third of this figure are children, where stateless children are born every 10 minutes, or 144 stateless children being born every day. The 1954 Convention relating to stateless persons defines a stateless person as one not considered as a national by any state under the operation of its law. In other words, a person is born but not recognized by any state, and as a consequence thereof does not enjoy his or her civil, political, and even basic human rights. Today's hearing is important as the Senate starts the process to concur with the instrument of accession to the 1961 Convention.
Kung meron pa dyan, ma'am, yung kay
Comsec, can you put on mute everybody else?
Yes, sir.
This was signed by the President last August 3, 2021, 60 years after the birth of the Convention. The Philippines first made a manifestation to accede to this convention more than 10 years ago during the 2011 Ministerial Intergovernmental Event on Refugees and Stateless Persons, which was reiterated in the 2019 high-level segment on statelessness. It is good to note, though, that being the first and only Southeast Asian country that is a state party to the 1954 Convention relating to the status of stateless persons, the Philippines already has a robust policy framework on statelessness. In fact, it is one of the few states with a national action plan to end statelessness, and our target is 2024, which we launched in 2017. We have an updated Philippine Development Plan 2017 to 2022, which includes enhancing the legal framework for stateless persons. I have some questions for today, which I will state now, and I hope our resource persons will address them. Number one, how many stateless persons do we have in the Philippines right now? What are their demographics? Number two, have we ensured the birth registration of all our newborn children in order to prevent any possibility of statelessness, especially those who are born in far-flung corners of our archipelago, where childbirths are mostly done at home? Number three, where are we now in terms of our national action plan to end statelessness? Number four, what enabling rights have we put in place in order to address the challenges faced by our stateless migrants and achieve our goals by 2024? Number five, what policies have we issued allowing our stateless persons to fulfill the right to employment, social security, public relief, and education, among others? Number six, what options under this convention before us that the country could adopt to prevent and at least reduce statelessness. It is said that statelessness is an invisible problem because stateless persons often remain unseen and unheard. That's why it's so difficult to estimate the number. Okay? So they're also not counted, very difficult to count. But we will try to reverse that today by looking at their status and listening to their plight through the voices of our representatives here from the non-government organizations who have earnestly worked and campaigned for our stateless people to be recognized and to belong. I hope that the questions that I have put forth, plus the rest of the concerns of the other members of the committee, will be fully addressed by the resource persons that we have here this afternoon. So, thank you for that opportunity to give my opening statement. So, I now ask our committee secretary to recognize our guests and the resource persons, both from the private sector and the government. So, for the record, Seksu.
Thank you, Your Honor, Mr. Chair. This afternoon, we have as resource persons from the DFA, Special Assistant Ralph Roldan, from the Office of Treaties and Legal Affairs, Director Andrea Lecano, Attorney Charlene Beriana. From the UN and other international organizations, we have Assistants Christine Larocco and Ms. Ayesha Bajin. From the Office of Consular Affairs, we have Director Winston Almeida. We also have from the Department of Justice, State Councils, Paulito de Jesus, Maria Lorena Calo, Lourdes Gisela Mendoza, Melvin Suarez, and Margaret Robles. From the Department of Social Welfare and Development, we have Ms. Jasamine Peñalosa and Mr. Leo Marco Torrio. From the Commission on Filipinos Overseas, we have Acting Director Rodrigo Garcia Jr. From the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples, we have Director Reynaldo Dingal and Attorney Adrienne Regine Dunuan. From the National Security Council, we have Ms. Maria Cristina Exmundo. From the Council for the Welfare of Children, we have Ms. Normina Mojica and Ms. Aubrey Punzalan. From the Philippine Statistics Authority, we have as observers, nobody has confirmed to be a resource person, but we have observers, Mr. Emilio Querubin and Mr. Rodelio de la Fuente from the Register Management Division. From the Presidential Human Rights Committee, we also have observers, Your Honor, from these are Director Tito Fajardo and Ms. Gian Vanessa Lim. From the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, or UNHCHR, we have Ms. Maria Ermina Valdevilla Gallardo together with Ms. Ariel Ann Gonzalez. From the Commission on Human Rights, we have Attorney Jomaher Asalan and Ms. Reina Bermudez. From the private sector, Your Honor, we have from the Center for Migrant Advocacy, Executive Director Eileen Sana. From the Community and Family Services International, we have Executive Director Alex Bacaro. From the Child Protection Specialist of UNICEF, Attorney Maria Margarita Ardevilla and Mr. Jesus Farr. And we also have observers from the Public Attorney's Office, Attorney Walesa Mercurio, and also Mr. Rigel A. Salvador. These are the resource persons that we have this afternoon, Your Honor. Thank you.
So thank you to all our resource persons from both the government and private sector, as well as to the observers for giving us your time. So feel free to share thoughts, positions, ideas, observations. Okay, so siguro, I think it's time now to get because there is no member yet, no member yet of the Foreign Relations Committee present. So because I will give them time to give their opening statements, but if they're not yet here, so we shall proceed. So let us now hear from our resource persons. Okay, I will follow the list given to me by the committee secretary. and start with the government sector, with the Department of Foreign Affairs. So who can give the position of the Department of Foreign Affairs? Is it
Sir,
Special
we have
Assistant
Special
Roldan?
Assistant Ralph Roldan.
Yes, please. Special Assistant Ralph Roldan.
Sir, I diffirm our position to the Office of Treaties and Legal Affairs, sir. Thank
Okay.
you.
So is it Director Andrea Leicano?
Yes, sir.
Sige.
Yes, sir.
Is Director ready? Director Leicano, yes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Senator, and good afternoon to everyone po who is in this hearing. Of course, the Department of Foreign Affairs recommends the accession to the Convention of the Reduction of Statelessness, and as the instrument of accession has already been signed by the President and has been duly transmitted to the Senate, we support the thrust of the Philippine government to have the Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness be acceded to by the Philippines. And for this matter, we would like to note that in 2017, the Philippines launched the National Action Plan to End Statelessness, which sought to, among others, achieve complete accession to the UN Statelessness Conventions at the earliest possible time. And the Philippines has ratified the 1954 Convention relating to the status of stateless persons in 2011, and now needs to accede to the 1961 Convention to fulfill its commitments as embodied in the NAP. Excuse me. The 1961 Convention has laid down measures to prevent and reduce statelessness in 4 areas of concern: statelessness among children, statelessness due to renunciation of nationality, statelessness due to deprivation of nationality, and statelessness in the context of state succession. With regard to our accession on this particular convention, we would like to, of course, defer all of the substantive questions to the DOJ, which is actually the lead agency for this particular convention. Thank you very much, po.
Thank you. The communication from the Office of the President actually also specifically mentions the DOJ's ano bang term ginamit dun sa letter, Comsec?
Baka lead agency, Your Honor.
No, sandali.
They are the
Certificate, yeah, the certificate of concurrence from the DOJ that has
Yes,
been
sir.
that's mentioned in the letter of the President. Thank you
Yes,
very much.
sir. Salamat po.
Salamat po, Director Leicano. Okay, so we are just making it. I think we are just making it official and for the record, no, for each government agency concerned with the subject matter to manifest before the Senate committee their agreement to the decision to accede to the to the treaty. So what's the next agency, Comsec?
Sir, we have the Department of Justice. I think they have a presentation together with the Commission on the UN, the United Nations Commission po. Commissioner for Refugees.
Are these two separate presentations or just one?
I was informed, sir, that they have a joint presentation.
Joint. Okay, sige. To be led by the Department of Justice. So we have here State Counsel Jesus. Is he the one presenting? Who will present on behalf of the DOJ and what's the other agency?
The UNCHR, Your Honor.
UNCHR, an international agency. Sige, who will do it? Please state your name. Hindi ko po kayo makita lahat eh. Sino po?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. State Counsel Melvin Suarez will be presenting for the DOJ, Mr. Chair. But
Okay, State Counsel Suarez, go ahead.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, sir.
yes, Mr. Chair.
On a share screen yata, Comsec.
Yeah,
Okay.
just request for the PowerPoint presentation, Mr. Chair. Can you please go to slide number 6, Ms. Ariel? The slide before. The slide before that, please. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and other members of the Honorable Committee on Foreign Relations of the Senate. For the record, Mr. Chair, would like to manifest that the Department of Justice has filed its position paper yesterday. I think it was sent, an advance copy was sent via email. It's dated December 9, 2021 on the subject matter, Mr. Chair. As I proceed, Mr. Chair, so on the national framework in relation to the favorable recommendation of the Department of Justice to accede to the 1961 Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness, we would just like to underscore that the Philippines made a pledge during the 2011 Ministerial Intergovernmental Event on Refugees and Stateless Persons to initiate the process of accession to the 1961 Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness. And the pledge was reiterated in 2019 during the high-level segment on statelessness. We also included the issue of statelessness in the Philippine Development Plan for 2017 to 2022, particularly in Chapter 21, which indicates to enhance the legislative framework for our persons of concern, which is a collective term to refer to refugees, stateless persons, asylum seekers, stateless applicants, and the populations at risk of statelessness in the country. We would like also to highlight that we are the first country in Southeast Asia to have a national action plan to end statelessness by 2024, which plan was in line, no? It adopted 7 action points under the UNHCR's global campaign to end statelessness by 2024. The particular action point number 6, refers to the accession to the UN Statelessness Convention. And we, in the 3rd cycle of the Universal Periodic Review, we have noted the accession to and full implementation of the 1961 Convention. There was a recommendation by the working group of the Philippines Universal Periodic Review. Slide, please. As of now, Mr. Chair, we recognize the Department of Justice through the Refugees and Stateless Persons Protection Unit recognized 13 stateless persons as of June of 2021. And we also have 113 pending applications for stateless status. The Refugees and Stateless Persons Protection Unit, Mr. Chair, or known by the acronym RSPPU, is a unit attached to the legal staff of the DOJ, which processes applications for recognitions of persons applying for refugees and stateless persons. By virtue of DOJ Department Circular number 58 series of 2012. Slide, please. The Philippine government, Mr. Chair, has also identified populations at risk of statelessness in the country. We have the first group of foundlings, The second group of persons of Indonesian descent, we call them by the acronym PIDs in southern Philippines and Mindanao. We have the Sama Bajaus. The other group is the unregistered children. We have the children of Filipino descent in migratory settings, and the persons of Japanese descent. We call them by the acronym PJD. Next slide, please. We would like to emphasize, Mr. Chair, that the Philippines has aligned with its existing national legal framework with the 1961 Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness with regard to the presumption of Philippine citizenship in the case of foundlings as enunciated in the landmark decisions of the Supreme Court of Paula Manzares versus Comelec and David versus Senate Electoral Tribunal. In relation to Article 8 of the Civil Code of the Philippines, which provides that judicial decisions applying or interpreting the laws of the Constitution form part of our legal system. We have also the availability of procedure to acquire Philippine citizenship through judicial or administrative naturalization. In reference to Commonwealth Act number 473 of the Judicial Naturalization Law and Republic Act number 91339, the Administrative Naturalization Law. We also have safeguard to prevent statelessness in terms of naturalization in another country. We have the availability of procedure to reacquire or retain Philippine citizenship for natural-born citizens who have lost their citizenship due to naturalization in the country by virtue of Republic Act number 9225 or the law on reacquisition or retention of Philippine citizenship. We also have the availability and procedure to reacquire or retain Philippine citizenship among Filipino women who have lost their Philippine citizenship by marriage to aliens in accordance with Republic Act number 8171. And then finally, the loss of citizenship due to disloyalty in accordance with law under Commonwealth Act number 63, the grounds for losing or acquiring Philippine citizenship. Next slide, please. And on our general assessment, Mr. Chair, we would like to highlight that the Philippines has existing legal frameworks that are consistent with the provisions of the 1961 Statelessness Convention, and that upon further assessment or study, if there will be any gaps or gray areas in our nationality laws, it could be further enhanced to align with the subject treaty. And finally, that enhancements will be undertaken through an act of Congress, notwithstanding current efforts to align the country's legal framework as a parallel endeavor to accede to the 1961 Statelessness Convention. That's all for the Department of Justice, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much.
State Counsel Suarez, your general statement is that even if we are not yet a state party to the 1961 convention, we are already complying with the general principles found therein. Tama po ba yan? Through our laws and judicial decisions.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have existing domestic laws which are compliant with the 1961 convention. But we're looking also, Mr. Chair, of possible gaps or gray areas in our nationality laws that might be in conflict with some provisions of the treaty, Mr. Chair, that we want to align with later on through an act of Congress. As an
Actually,
enhancement, Mr. Chair.
we are doing that on our own initiative, even without being a state party. Tama? Kasi yung principles yata, we are really convinced and sold to the principles found in the 1961 convention.
Yes, Mr. Chair, but we stated it also in our position paper, Mr. Chair, that the 1961 Statelessness Convention is also complementary with the 1954 Statelessness Convention that the Philippines also a state party. So it complements one another, Mr. Chair, and there are provisions in the treaty, Mr. Chair, that we want to highlight, for instance, the issue on foundlings, that right now we don't have a domestic law or statute from Congress in that regard, although we have a pending bill with the House and the Senate to resolve the issue. Notwithstanding that we have a Supreme Court decision on that already, Mr. Chair. I think the issue of foundling is indicated also under Article 2 of the 1961 Statelessness Convention.
So thank you for that. So,
That's one of the provisions, Mr. Chair. Thank you po.
kasi basta ang point ko, we are acting as a state pursuant to and in compliance with the 1961 convention, even if we have not yet acceded to it. So out of our own volition yan.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So, and then the two agencies are highlighting that we made a pledge. We have to do this because we have to fulfill our commitment. So gagawin po natin ito. I do not think this is a controversial treaty or convention. So are you done with DOJ?
Yes, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
now,
Thank you
that's
so
it.
much.
How about the UN HCR? No more presentation?
Mr. Chair, this is Ariel Po from the UN High Commissioner for Refugees.
Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and esteemed colleagues from the government and non-government organizations. On behalf of our Head of National Office, Attorney Valdevilla Gallardo, we would like to express our gratitude for the opportunity to present today the 1961 Convention. So as our esteemed Mr. Chair has said, it's 60th anniversary already, senior citizen na po itong 1961 Convention. And it is very timely because today is also the International Human Rights Day. So the right to nationality is also very much entrenched in the 1961 Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness. And you may ask, the right to nationality is very much important because it is an enabling right. So while we have international human rights instruments which provide that human rights are accorded to you by virtue of being human, the right to citizenship allows you to access rights and, of course, subsequently services. So, as mentioned by State Counsel Suarez, the 1961 Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness complements the 1954 Convention. So if I may share the salient features or how the 1961 Convention is divided, it is divided into four. The first is on childhood statelessness. It looks into children born in and outside of the contracting state, children born out of wedlock, and also foundlings, as earlier discussed. It also looks into loss or renunciation of nationality, for instance, in terms of change of personal status, for example, in terms of marriage or adoption, in relation to change in nationality, which is being said to be conditional on account of having possession or acquisition of another nationality. The next is on deprivation. Deprivation is allowed only on very limited circumstances, and it is not allowed if it will lead to statelessness. So that's Articles 8 to 9. And lastly, state succession. No person shall be stateless when there is a change of territory. So, in terms of the state parties to both the 1954 Convention, which outlines the rights, minimum rights for stateless persons, and defines who a stateless person is, there are 96 state parties, including the Philippines, the first in Southeast Asia. For the 1961 Convention, which provides a menu of options to prevent and reduce statelessness, there are 77 state parties, of which the Philippines has committed to accede to, as mentioned earlier, in 2011 and 2019 Global Forum. When we talk about the accession to the 1961 Convention, it has several benefits. First off, with our persons of concern or our stateless persons and persons at risk of statelessness, it promotes enjoyment of their rights associated with their citizenship. It also provides options for states to address gaps from different approaches. So the 1961 Convention balances state sovereignty in determining who its citizens are, but at the same time prevents statelessness through providing safeguards. It also promotes the full participation of individuals by having that virtue of citizenship. It also demonstrates the Philippines' continued commitment to human rights, as nationality is a right enshrined in different international human instruments, humanitarian standards, including the right to nationality. And if ever the Philippines accedes to this, it would also be the first in Southeast Asia to be a state party to the 1961 Convention. It also serves as a role model, the Philippines, encouraging other states to accede to the 1961 Convention and enhances national security and stability. So just to share, Mr. Chair, in terms of developments of international law, uh, after the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which enshrines the fundamental rights of being human and also enshrined and translated into the different conventions indicated herein, following this are the 1954 and 1961 Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness and the Convention relating to the status of stateless persons. It should be highlighted that these conventions, these statelessness conventions, should be read in light of the conventions, international human rights conventions, which provide the right to nationality. For instance, for children, Articles 7 and 8 provide for the right to nationality and obligations of the state to address statelessness. Um, and also looking into other contexts such as the UN CEDAW, which provides that women should have equal opportunities with men to transmit their nationality to their children. And these are very much relevant in terms of the provisions of the 1961 Convention. In relation to this, while we also have adopted, the Philippines has adopted the SDGs and the 2030 Agenda to leave no one behind. As mentioned by State Council Suarez, the Philippines has adopted a national action plan based on the 10-point Global Action Plan to End Statelessness, which looks into 4 pillars: identification, protection, prevention, and reduction, of which prevention and reduction will be addressed through the accession to the 1961 Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness. We also look into the 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees, its 1967 Protocol, and the Global Compact on Refugees, as there are also mechanisms by which statelessness could be addressed, along with the Global Compact on safe, orderly, and regular migration, by view of the fact that migration could be a cause and or effect of statelessness. And with that, Mr. Chair, I end my presentation. Thank you very much.
So thank you, ma'am. Thank you to the UNHCR and the DOJ. Who is next, Sec?
Sir, we will have to get the positions of the DSWD and other agencies po.
Sige, DSWD and all the other agencies, you can just manifest your agreement or even your disagreement that the committee wants to know the position of each agency. Sige, so who will speak for the DSWD?
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair. I am Jessamine Peñalosa. I'm one of the technical staff from the Program Management Bureau of the Department. And in behalf of our Secretary Rolando Bautista, the DSWD as a member of the Welfare Assistance and Health of the Interagency Steering Committee on the Protection of Refugees, Asylum Seekers, and stateless persons in the Philippines would like to express our support to the ratification of the 1961 Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness. And in this regard, we will be submitting our position paper to the committee once approved by our secretary. Nevertheless, we would like to provide you our initial comments and recommendations with regards to this matter po. So first, given that the said convention gives effect to Article 15 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which recognizes that everyone has the right to a nationality, it is necessary to consider also and to discuss the processes for those who will not be qualified for nationality to ensure that no one will be left behind. Second po, there shall be a provision for a mandatory enactment of the national law to give clear guidance and protocol on the implementation of the Convention and Protection Against Statelessness. Then, we would also like to recommend that there should be a separate article that will provide guidance for children, for cases of children. And we would also like to recommend that each contracting state should establish a central authority to assess individual beneficiary of the convention. And at the same time, we would also like to recommend that we have to strengthen our partnership with the UNHCR and other concerned agencies to promote this advocacy as well as the legislation to ensure that policies and practices on nationality and statelessness are being attended by the government and other stakeholders. And in this sense, it will require cooperation between the different government and non-government organizations. This would be all for now. And again, the DSWD support to the ratification of the 1961 Convention. And we will be submitting our position paper po to the committee once approved by the Secretary. Thank you po.
So thank you for that. Sandali Miss Jessamine
Peñalosa, sir.
Peñalosa. Okay. Okay, who else?
Sir,
From the
from
government
the
sector muna. From the government sector, yes. Who
yes, sir,
else?
from the Presidential Human Rights Committee, we have Mr. Tito Fajardo and Mr. Gian Lim. Whoever would like to speak po.
Okay, go ahead. Ikaw. Are they present?
Yes, sir, they are online.
Okay. Mr. Fajardo?
Sir, good afternoon. The Presidential Human Rights Committee Secretariat, being one of the offices of the Office of the President, fully supports this final processes of ratification, in as much as this is actually enabling the state in order to protect and promote the human rights of our stateless persons. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for making that of record. Salamat po, Director Fajardo. Thank you, sir. Who else? Comsec?
Sir, from the Commission on Human Rights,
Sige. Commission on Human Rights,
we
Attorney
have
Asalan.
Attorney Jomahar Asalan.
Jomahar Asalan, yes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. On behalf of the Commission on Human Rights, we would like to express our full support for to the 19th Convention on the Prevention of Statelessness, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
You are very busy today, no, CHR? Today is Human Rights Day.
And so today po, there will be a celebration po of the International Human Rights Day po. So Commissioner Gwen po won't be able to attend today.
Yeah,
so she sent us po instead.
Are you going to submit a parang position paper?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we are in the process po of drafting the position paper and we will submit it po upon after the approval po by the Commission and
Sige.
Mr. Chair.
We're looking forward to the submission by the CHR of a position paper. But
Thank you po.
but you are fully supportive as an institution. Sige. Thank you. Anybody
Mr.
else from the CHR about si Ma'am Bermudez? No more?
Sir, I concur with Attorney Jones, and we fully support, sir, in the Commission on Human Rights for the accession to the 1961 Statelessness Convention, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Comsec, who's next?
Yes, sir. We have from the Commission on Filipinos Overseas, Acting Director Rodrigo Garcia Jr.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of our chairperson, retired Justice Francisco P. Acosta, we wish to align our position with our counterparts from the Department of Foreign Affairs as well as the Department of Justice. And we fully support and reaffirm our iteration that we must accede to fully implement the 1961 Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness the soonest possible time. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you to the CFO. Thank you.
Sir, from the National Security Council, we have Mr. Eugene Texon.
Mr. Texon of the NSC, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Actually, I'm just an observer. I
Sige.
have to accede to my colleague here, NSS 5 Bang Exmundo. Thank you.
Yes,
Sir,
we have Division Chief Maria Cristina Exmundo. Yes, go
Yes,
ahead.
good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Honorable Chair, and everyone. Yes, we fully support the accession to the convention. But then at the same time, our position is that we also need to have the passage of the legislation so that we can look into the nitty-gritty of the convention and be aligned with international law. Of course, we have a dualist mode in our constitution. So we only accept or implement the general principles. But then, as for the obligatory provisions of the conventions, we really need to have legislation on that, especially when it comes to welfare. As Mr. Scheer has mentioned, education, gainful employment, and others. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Ma'am Director. Chief Exmundo.
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Sir,
from the
our official position is on its way. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Sana you could also discuss possible national security implications. Nandun ba sa
Yes,
paper?
sir.
Sa paper ninyo? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank
We
you,
will.
ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Comsec.
Sir, from the Council for the Welfare of Children, we have Ms. Normina Mojica from the Policy Planning and Research Division.
Yes, Ms. Mojica, please go ahead.
Yes. Sorry, I couldn't turn on my cam for some reason, sir. But at any rate, the Council for the Welfare of Children, being regarded as the apex agency for children's concern, uh, fully supports the concurrence on or the concurrence of our accession to the 1961 Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness. As mentioned, this would be in direct link also to our being a state party to the Convention on the Rights of the Child, where we say the first right of the child is the right to nationality. So CWC had since advocated this in our 18th Congress legislative agenda for children, and also back with one of our priority agendas, the Universal Civil Registry Vital Statistic System. We believe that it is really essential that all children should be registered, as registration gives citizenship status to children in need of special protection. We are also a member of the technical working group of the National Action Plan to End Statelessness. And so we are really very supportive of this accession, Honorable Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this convention pala, 1961, complements the 1954, and then implements the UN Human Rights Convention, and then also this Convention on the Rights of the Child, and all
Yes,
of the various conventions mentioned in the earlier presentation, no? With the initials, yung by the UNHCR presentation. So
Yes, sir.
well, so this should really be a non-controversial action on the part of the Philippines to accede to this convention. We could see its consistency with our other commitments, and basically with our basic beliefs of our country. Are you raising your hand, Miss Mojica?
Yes,
Are you
sir.
raising?
It
Okay, go ahead.
also, yes. Yes, sir. It also resolves our problem in terms of the so-called stateless children that we have in other countries. Uh, and those are actually children who were either born out of wedlock in another country, or they were born there and they could not really access basic services just because of their being regarded as stateless. This will resolve that problem, sir. So we really are very much into hoping that finally this would be the final process for us to end this problem about the children being stateless. Thank you, sir.
The problem will be resolved because they shall be considered Filipinos. Tama po ba 'yan?
Opo, sir.
Is that the problem? Is that the problem you're mentioning, that the children of Filipino citizens who are abroad? Yun po 'yon?
Yeah, partly po. Partially that would resolve it, eh. And it would also depend on our, sometimes it also depends on our agreement with the countries on how they are regarded also. But having acceded, if we acceded this convention, then that partly resolves a big chunk of the problem of our stateless children left behind abroad.
Okay. Pero ang personal position ko kasi diyan, with or without this convention, they are Filipinos,
Yes, sir.
subject to proof lang, subject to evidence, the link.
Yes, sir.
Kasi nasa constitution natin 'yun eh, di ba?
Opo. Because
Children of
of
Filipino citizens born
my
anywhere,
blood.
uh,
Yeah.
are Filipino. So you just prove that
Yes.
link. Uh,
Yes,
Sige,
sir.
but this one at least in addition to the
Mas
constitution,
lalo pa po.
plus this convention pa. Thank you for
Yes.
pointing that out, ma'am. Thank you.
Opo.
Comsec, who's next?
Yes, sir. From the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples, we have Mr. Christian Deloria or Mr. Ulysses Espinas. They would want to make a statement.
Okay, so go ahead, NCIP.
Sir,
Just
yes,
identify
Mr.
yourself.
Chair.
Apa. Sino po to?
Good afternoon. This is Christian Deloria, sir,
Okay,
from
Mr.
the
Deloria.
Office of Policy and Planning. Um, Sir, the NCIP is also in agreement to the accession to the 1961 Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness. This is very helpful po in promoting the rights of our indigenous people and cultural communities. And it will really ensure the social, political, cultural, economic, and rights of our indigenous people. Our official papers will be submitted once approved by the Commission on NBAC.
So thank you for that, Mr. Deloria. So anybody else from the NCIP? Okay na? Okay na po 'yon? Sige. Comsec, who's next?
Yes, sir. From the non-government organizations, sir. We start with
Sa NGO na, sandali. Any
Yeah, po.
other government agency present this afternoon who would want to make their position known? In agreement, supportive, disagreement, with reservation, anything? Any other government agency? Okay, wala na? Okay, sige. Okay, let's now go to the non-governmental organizations.
Yes, sir. We start with the Center for Migrant Advocacy, or CMA. We have Executive Director, Ms. Eileen Sana.
Okay, Miss Sana, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We just to put on record that we also submitted a written position on the matter, and we emailed it to the committee. But also just to verbalize our appreciation to the various executive agencies in expressing their strong support for the ratification of the 1961 Convention, and as articulated particularly by the DOJ and the UNHRC, this 1961 Convention is actually to complement, strengthen our commitment to prevention of statelessness when we ratified the 1954 Convention. But of course, apart from these two conventions, as also showed in the slides of the UNHRC, we actually are the Philippines is state party to practically all the fundamental conventions on human rights. But I would single out particularly the CRC, which is also mentioned, the CEDAW, which is also mentioned, and in our case, the Convention on Migrant Workers. So when Ms. Mojica mentioned also the impact of the statelessness on the children of migrants, maybe just to follow through that argument, I think it's not, while our Constitution guarantees nationality to everyone, including those who are overseas, particularly because of this basis of by blood, that the mothers or the parents of children born overseas may be in various circumstances that can prevent them from registering their babies upon birth. So marami pong dahilan ba't hindi nila nare-register, and foremost of which would be the very legal status of the parent or the parents of the babies. So if they're undocumented, for one, the baby inherits the undocumented status. This is separate from the Philippine government extending nationality. But then it becomes more difficult and really challenging for the parents to go to the embassy to register the birth of the baby, especially because, like in many of the Gulf states, the embassies are located in places that are secured. Of course, this is part of the diplomatic agreement. To enter those places, they will have to present their papers as well. So in the end, the babies are not registered. Well, we can always claim that that baby is Filipino. What is the proof? And then they grow up. We have several cases of children who would reach the age of 9, 10, and puberty, and still very unclear on their status, whether they're Filipinos or what have you. Now, the situation is made more complex. For example, now in Japan, where Japan is opening up to migrant workers, but then employers are prohibiting, particularly women migrants, to get pregnant. So we have instances of reports in Japan where babies are found abandoned. So again, stateless, nothing to identify the babies, and that is because the migrant do not want to be deported or do not want to be terminated. So this is a practice because the law of Japan allows that you cannot terminate a woman on the basis of pregnancy or giving birth to children. But then because of the employer's practice, then this becomes the situation, and it adds up to the problem of statelessness of children. The other issue, Chair, for as far as overseas Filipinos are concerned, and particularly the undocumented, is not so much the absence of citizenship, because this is guaranteed, as you mentioned, but then also in the case of adult undocumented Filipinos, they would be rendered invisible denied access to many of the basic services, including medical treatment, especially now that we are going through the pandemic, then it really becomes very, very challenging for a lot of our overseas Filipinos. So, and this is especially becomes more difficult when the passport expires. So I think part of the issue that we wanted to put out as well, as we deliberate on this statelessness, is our recommendation that one, we advocate that countries of destination erect, put up a firewall, for lack of term, a firewall between service-oriented agencies and immigration. So we should try to put across, convey to countries of destination that you should not make it conditional for migrant workers, regardless of status, to present their papers before they can be given emergency treatment and the like. But similarly, we are advocating that our missions, embassies, and consulates would be also more flexible and more accommodating for undocumented Filipinos who would need to renew their passports. So because this is not an issue in relation to the status of their stay in the country of destination. So we are not even condoning their undocumented status, but I think it becomes important that at the very least they have a valid papers that would confirm that they are Filipinos, and that is through the possession of a valid passport. So I hope that that's something that can also ease up the situation of the undocumented migrants, many of whom arrive at that status not because of their own volition, because largely migration for work purposes is legal and regular channels. But then, especially in the Gulf, a lot of our women migrants run away because of abusive employers. So I think there should be more consideration and compassion in the case for our people at the mission to extend support as much as they can. And one way is through the issuance of valid Philippine passports. Of course, the other issue is the one that I mentioned in regard to Filipino women migrants and women migrants in general, is that, this is today's Human Rights Day, that for many women migrant workers, and we know that more than half of our deployment are women, and they are disproportionately concentrated in domestic work, it's almost like their right to sexual and reproductive health rights is automatically denied. And I think this is something that we should also try to put forward, that on the basis of SIDO, you should not be denied the access to services, to sexual and reproductive health services, and your practice of your rights as women migrant workers. The other point is in terms of we also have situations like in Japan and Korea, where you have, how do you say it, intercultural marriages, where children will have to be registered, to be acknowledged by the father, for example, will have to be registered in the family registry. And again, this can be when relationship goes fall apart, then at the receiving end of that would probably be the babies, who will not be owned by their parent, by the father. Yeah. And again, this becomes an issue in terms of their access to a lot of rights that should have been afforded to them while they are in the country of the destination.
Ma'am, na-mute po kayo, ma'am.
Ellen, na-mute ka. Can you restart
Hello?
your sentence?
Okay. So okay na po ba? Okay. The other issue, Chair, is yung and this is highlighted by the pandemic, where it is, of course, as I said, the embassies and consulates are located in secured areas. So it really becomes difficult for ordinary, even migrant, domestic, even regular migrants would find it difficult to access. So is it possible to explore online platforms to effect the registration of the children, simplify the process also, and particularly maybe for our embassies and consulates, they do from time to time field and mobile consular services. So we suggest that registration of the babies can also be lodged into this periodic mobile and field community outreach of our missions. You know, like in many of the Gulf states where in one accommodation they have like 40,000 Filipinos, so they would schedule visits there for purposes of passporting, etc. And that they should include in their agenda there provisions that if children have not been registered, that they should try to register. So maybe at least those are the basic points that we wanted to mention, and we have a written submission as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. So we look forward to the submission of your position paper.
We submitted already po.
You submitted. Thank you very much for your position paper. In that case. Sige, Comsec.
Yes, sir. We received po their position paper this morning.
Okay.
We also have, sir, from the UNICEF, Mr. Jesus Far. He is a child protection specialist.
Okay,
Hello, good
Mr. Far,
afternoon.
Mr. Far, go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. This is a very short, and UNICEF would like to articulate its agreement and full support to the accession to the 1961 Convention
Excuse me, sir. Mr.
prevent
Far,
statelessness.
Mr. Far, excuse me po. Can you
And this
turn
is
off
in
your video?
alignment to the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child and the other international instruments.
Mr. Far, can you hear us?
That's it po. Thank you.
Can you hear us? Mr. Far, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. Because your I think something's wrong with either his internet connection or his microphone siguro.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Far,
Narinig po.
you express agreement no, to the accession. You are expressing agreement to the accession. Yun po yun?
Yes. UNICEF would like to share. Yes po. Yes.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, thank you. Medyo medyo choppy po yung
Yeah.
audio. Okay na po, Mr. Far? Is that tapos na po
Yes,
ang
sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, UNICEF through Mr. Far. Okay. Is Miss Sana, Ellen, are you raising your hand, Ellen?
Hey, sorry po. Ibababa ko na po.
Okay, sige. Okay, Comsec.
Sir, we have no more people on our list, but maybe the UNHCR would also would also like to manifest their position.
Si Ariel, yeah.
Yes po.
Ariel, I think, has made the presentation. Sige, okay. We give you the floor again, Ariel.
Yes po. Yes, sir. I'll make it short and quick to express and effort.
Excuse us, Ms. Gonzalez. Comsec, is it my connection which has a problem or sa kanila?
No, sir. Their connection, sir.
Their connection.
Mahina po yata ang bandwidth nila.
Sige, sandali. Ano yun natin? Okay, Ms. Gonzalez, again, from the start.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Sige, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair and Kulam. UNHCR welcomes this positive development, and we laud the Philippines for its efforts to accede to the 1961 Convention. Rest assured of UNHCR's technical support to this endeavor. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair. Thank you po.
Sige, we also anticipate and look forward to your technical support on the nitty-gritty. As mentioned by sino yun? Who mentioned that? The National Security Council yata. On the nitty-gritty of the convention, because there's some details that we may have to implement through law. Law, executive order, executive action. So I'm glad to know that the UNHCR will be there to help us with the technical requirements. So, Comsec, anybody else?
Sir, wala na po dito sa list, sir. But maybe somebody else would want to make a statement.
Sige, we have been very efficient with our time. In 1 hour, we are practically done. So I will give time to the other agencies or my fellow workers in government. Who else wants to make their position or sentiment known to the committee? Okay, wala na. Comsec, ikaw lang nakikita ko. Baka tayong dalawa na lang ang online. Are they still online? May kasama. Okay, may kasama ko pala tayo. Okay. O Ateneo Human Rights Center, do they want to participate?
They have not
Attorney,
confirmed, sir, the Ateneo Human Rights Center.
andito sila eh. Somebody
Nandiyan po
posted
ba?
sa chat box eh. Attorney Manigbas. Sige, you have the floor, ma'am. Sige.
Afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Chair, for recognizing our office in this meeting. We would also like to express our full support to this development, especially since this is a good move to ensure that the rights of everyone to nationality is protected. This is also a good strategy to create an inclusive society for everyone. We would also like to emphasize that even with the ratification of the 1961 convention, this would also open up the doors to push for other legislative priorities, such as a comprehensive framework for the protection of refugees and stateless persons in the Philippines. Because, as mentioned earlier, there might be certain nitty-gritties that we still have to look into. So a comprehensive bill or a comprehensive law for the protection of these persons of concern would also be helpful to make sure that their concerns and their rights are also protected. Thank you, everyone, and have a good Human Rights Day. Happy Human Rights Day.
Oo nga, you're also busy pala kasi Human Rights Day ngayon. And I hope the center, the Ateneo Human Rights Center, will always be there when we now try to implement or give flesh to the details of not only of this convention, ang dami pala eh, interrelated lahat. Somebody used the term, the fundamental human rights conventions. Okay? So,
Yes, Chair. We will
Comsec,
be there.
yes, thank you, Attorney Manigbas. Anybody else? Wala na po.
Sir, mga observers na lang po yung nandito.
Even the observers, if they want to say something. We have been very efficient with our time. Hindi kami sanay na 1 hour lang hearing. Very efficient. So okay na tayo. Okay. Now, our problem, Comsec. Are you online, Comsec? Comsec?
Yes, sir. I'm here, sir.
Okay. We are about to end. I still do not have a quorum. So, for this hearing. So, what shall we do? I think we just suspend. I call this again in one of the future hearings of the committee, so that I just call it and then officially terminate it.
Yes, we can do that, sir.
Pero sayang. Anyway, sige. Anyway, some of you are still submitting position papers naman, no? So, okay, we'll try our best to put this in the agenda of the in the next Committee on Foreign Relations hearing so that I will have a quorum para yung ating proseso is also in accordance with the Senate rules. So we'll just ganun na lang siguro unless you'll all be invited again, but if you want to speak during that hearing, I will allow you. Pero kung wala na, I will just open and then close on this matter of the 1961 convention. So, Comsec, is that the best that we can do given the lack of quorum for today?
Yes, sir. Although we are allowed, sir, since this is not an investigation, even if there's just one senator, we can still call this a public hearing, sir.
Okay, so we can prepare a committee report?
Sir. Yes, sir. We
Okay,
can do
proceed
that.
ganun. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, so in that case, upon the guidance of our very experienced committee secretary, how long have you been committee secretary of the Committee on Foreign Relations, Ma'am Sue? Like
12 years, sir.
tagal na? Oo, so
12 years na po.
dala-dala na po niyang institutional memory, expertise with the rules. Okay, so upon advice of the committee secretary, since we can proceed pala, so the committee chairman now terminates the hearing on the 1961, I will use the official name, 61 Convention on the Reduction of Statelessness. And I would like to thank all of those who have participated in our hearing this afternoon from the government as well as from the private sector. Okay na po. So, yun na po yun. Nobody else? Okay, so thank you very much. We are now terminating our hearing. Maraming salamat po sa
Thank
inyo
you,
lahat.
sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you po.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you po.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Comsec.
Salamat po. Please submit your position papers po, yung mga hindi pa nag-submit. We only
Thank you,
have
Sue.
two, by the way. We have from the DOJ and the CMA. So we are
Okay.
awaiting the rest of the position papers. Maraming
Yes,
salamat
ma'am.
po.
Well, thank you.